It all starts with a blinking cursor and a sentence.
Connection is what humans crave.
The biggest thing is it's two-way.
Yeah.
It's not broadcast.
Because the web is so much bigger than just business, making money, and governing. It is really culture at large.
No one is alone anymore.
They really feel as if this is one world.
I don't think it gets any better than that.
There's a new variety, a new dimension of social interaction that was not present before, and that is the dimension that we're exploring now.
The hot topic of social media, I think that people are only beginning to understand what it might mean to post things about yourself in a public forum.
All this great stuff that's emerging in social media is people trying to find new, interesting ways to communicate, become more efficient, become more engaged, become more informed.
Social technologies are reflective of human nature, whether it's, connecting you to the people that you know or connecting you to people around the things that you care about.
People who maybe before were lost or felt alone in their own little interests now are able to really connect with people who share what they share, this fascination with something in particular. And that particularness has been amplified and magnified. And that is the glue that I think brings a lot of people together that was not present before.
The strength is that it lets us do this thing that we've always done to one degree or another, but now do it on a much larger scale, which is to think together.
25 years ago, we didn't have a way to impact the world in one single instant. Today we do, and it's through the internet.
There is a feeling of being connected.
Connection, it's what we are all about. It's something that separates us from animals. It even comes before the fact that we have language, because the language is an example of a, if you like, a neural technology we have created to answer this need for connection.
There's a myth online that what we're doing is free.
The moment you go online, you are recorded as having gone online. You leave a print. People know roughly where you're coming from, and they know you've entered a site. And once you've entered that site, it can say where you're going in that site, where you don't go in that site, what you look at, what you don't look at, what search terms that you use, what documents you decide to display, and how long you're there, and where you go next. And by putting all those things together, we can begin to develop characteristics of information-seeking behavior.
And in all these ways, therefore, we expose ourselves to view through the use of these devices. Not that we would want to give up using these devices, they're just so useful to us, but they do expose us to scrutiny.
The deal is relatively straightforward. So when you go on Amazon and you click, and as you click through from product to product to product, you start to see the recommendations appear, either based on your past history or more typically your session. As you start looking for cameras, you start to see people who clicked, who looked at this also looked at that. People who bought this, people who clicked at this bought that. In the course of your clicking, the service becomes more useful to you. The implicit, and for many people the explicit trade-off is that in exchange for watching over your shoulder as you shop, we will help you shop better. There's nothing new about this trade-off. In the same way that you don't, that in the store, as the assistant helps you shop, you're choosing to give up information about your preferences for the sake of a better experience. You do so as well in Amazon. If you don't want to give up personal information, you just don't have to log in to Amazon. You can do it anonymously.
That is what we're doing online. We are clothing ourselves in data, unawares, and we are being judged as we're walking around the internet by who the cookies say we are, and who we declare we are by our Facebook profile or our Twitter stream or what information we put into whatever website we might go to.
It's hard to say just how valuable personal information on the web is. I think that most companies would rather have cash to start with, but the information is coming to them almost for free. That is, the
your clickstream data just comes to the website, comes to advertisers without your actually having to do anything other than just going and clicking on things. So it's a very, very cheap and unobtrusive form of currency. I mean, probably the best thing about it is that it is so unobtrusive. You don't know you're giving it up, and so it seems entirely free to you.
So there's two ways to look at this. There's the pure monetary definition of free, and then there's the sort of the broader definition of free, of an exchange of value. The web is if you choose to make it so, the web is very much free from a monetary perspective. Once you've paid for access, once you've paid your way in the door, your internet service provider or whatever, you can pretty much get what you want at no additional cost. That's from a strictly monetary perspective in terms of just taking out your wallet and paying cash. But I think that looking at the world through the lens of pure monetary value is not the right way to do it anymore. I think we now realize that there are other forms of value that we sometimes actually value even more. There's time, there's attention, there's reputation. So when I tweet for free, I am exchanging information for the sake of reputational credits. People will follow my tweets, I'll get more followers. I may be able to then use that celebrity of some sort to achieve my own ends, whatever they may be. So I give away content to acquire reputational and attention credits, which I then store until I want to spend them.
Frankly, people see cash, individuals see cash differently because it's something that comes straight out of their pocket. The information they give up, they don't see it leaving, and they don't know what anyone's doing with it.
Now you can create value without going to the bank, without getting that central capital up front. That's what's created the confusion. So what do? Well, there's big wobble until that's figured out. And that's why we have this problem of the free.
They're building up essentially profiles. They're building up dossiers and files about the people who visit various websites. And they will be able to glean that, you're a person who likes to travel, you're a person who likes to cook, so on and so forth, and being able to target you as a person for those kinds of ads.
There is this notion of a cybernetic feedback loop where tiny signals are amplified and made larger, and that's actually the foundation of almost all the systems, including life and evolution. The power of the feedback loop, which is what electronics and microcircuits give us, is the ability to amplify small things into large things. The danger of feedbacks is they can amplify dissent and bad things and negative things as well. So we always have to balance it, but feedbacks are the great amplifier. So there is a danger in feedback loops where you are only going to be delivered what you want, and that leads to kind of a dumbness and a stupidity. But I think what happens is that while we like to have things that are the same, we also have an insatiable appetite for new things, and feedback loops also propel that. So it's really kind of a matter of education, of bringing people the news that they have the ability to see new things. And one of the things that the web does very well is random encounters and stochastic impulses and serendipity. And so they also get us out of our little ruts and deliver us things that we'd never thought about before. And I think that's one way in which feedback loops can actually propel diversity.
We should be very worried, I think, about the amount of data concerning ourselves, including very personal, private, intimate data about ourselves, which is now out there in the public domain, both in private and in public hands. We should be worried about it for a large number of reasons, but one central reason is that this information is stored digitally in one or another location out there in a way that we may not have access to ourselves. And it's very, very easily manipulated. It's very easily changed by somebody who is either lazy, incompetent, or malevolent in some way. So by giving up so much of our personal information as we do every time we buy something online or every time we talk to somebody on a mobile phone, we're exposing ourselves to risk. Every single day that we do something digital, we are potentially leaving a trace out there, and that if somebody wanted to find out where we were shopping, what we were doing, who we were communicating with, why we were doing it, what websites we were logging onto, they could do it. It's a very, very exposed set of media, these electronic communication devices that we now use. We've got this real need to have a wide margin of personal discretion around us. And if other people know what's going on in our thoughts and in our personal records and communications, they've invaded that margin and they've made it less easy for us to control our own lives.
How would they get from that to actually figuring out, for instance, who you are? Well, it's well known in the privacy world that things like your birth date, your gender, and your postal code or zip code will allow people to figure out who you actually are, what your true name is. Now, how might a website get that information from you? Well, let's say you want to sign up for a horoscope. Then you're going to give them your birth date and probably tell them whether or not you're a man or a woman. Then maybe you want to find out what your local weather is. Probably the easiest way to do that is to put in your postal code or zip code. And bingo, they've got 3 pieces of information that are going to make it really easy for them to figure out exactly who you are.
Some of us are more aware than others that this is occurring. Most of us honestly have no idea. And if it got turned off tomorrow, would be upset because all of a sudden the services we had wouldn't be as good because Amazon wouldn't know what they know about you and eBay wouldn't know what they know about you. And for whatever reason, when you went to your favorite news site, the content you got wasn't customized to who you are. And so on and so forth.
There's a risk-reward ratio here, and for us the reward is so great that whatever the risk is, we try and contain it and understand it at best. But what we don't do is say the risk is too great.
I don't think there are many people left on the planet who have access to electricity and computers who would ever go back to not having the internet.
The point is that they're fantastically convenient. None of us would willingly give them up. But what we would want, if we really thought carefully about what it meant whenever we use these devices, we would want much, much greater individual security for our communications.
There's definitely a piece of education that needs to underpin all of the developments that are happening in technology.
We have a whole cultural, set of mores that have to catch up with the fact that we've all kind of logged in. We're not there yet. And we don't understand the implications of it, but we sense it. I mean, we're not dumb. We're social beings, and we want to be out there. We just don't have a clear picture of where we are. We're going to get there, and I think the way we get there is through some tragedies and some successes.
I'm a positive person and an optimistic person, and I think that the web has reinforced what I believe about human nature is that it's good, and it's when put together it can create great things. I find the web a friendly place, and as long as you educate to make people safe, I think the bulk of what happens in the web is interesting, exciting, supportive, fun, entertaining, and magic.
There is a sense of movement forward, the sense of going somewhere, of maybe you might call it progress.
It's just wonderful, wonderful data that hopefully will change society, that will make sure that in the information-rich world we are in, that people will fully benefit from this fantastic resource.